Gurdjieff commented that many of the people involved in the work he was doing behaved like they were expecting roast chicken to fly into their mouth at any moment. What he meant by this was they expected a ready-made meal without any work on their part. And this is how most people are with spiritual work. They believe that somehow their happiness and their inner joy can be got for a fairly cheap price. Maybe a weekend retreat with a guru. Maybe just toddling off to the Himalayas. It's always out there. They externalize what should really be an internal thing. And so, very few people, in actual fact, are really cut out to do the kind of work he was talking about. And work is the correct word for it. It's not some sort of recreational activity. So you need to ask yourself a question when you're thinking about the work. What is it that you want? Now, Gurdjieff was fairly clear about his own needs. He said he wanted to understand who he was, what was the purpose of life, and so on. And it seems that as far as he was concerned, he got the answers to those things. So you need to ask yourself what you want. Now, if you're a fairly sane human being, then you will want inner peace. You will possibly want contentment. You possibly want to experience joy. Things that we read about in many religious texts. The next question is, how much are you prepared to pay to get those? Of course, we're not talking about money, we're talking about effort. And the effort that is involved is your effort. It's specifically your own thing. It's not regurgitated procedures outlined by somebody else. Your search is your search. It's your take ownership of it. There's no mass production. There's no mass production facility churning out happy, enlightened people. Contrary to what the popular gurus may try and portray. Take Eckhart Tolle, for example. Now, anyone with any sensitivity can see that Eckhart Tolle has got something. And in fact, with the people that I used to know in the Gurdjieff work, they would say, yeah, he's sort of there, he's got it. The problem is, you need a personal teacher, and he's not behaving as a personal teacher. What he's effectively doing is dishing out tranquilizers for people on a regular basis through his webinars and whatever else he does on the internet. And I enjoy listening to Eckhart Tolle as much as anybody. But if you listen to him speak about the price he paid to get what he got, then I think most people would say, oh well, maybe if that's the price I have to pay, no thank you. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, going to work, watching TV, going to the pub, cheating on my partner, whatever it is that most people do. Because if you listen to Tolle, he says he reached a kind of crisis point where he was almost ready to commit suicide. And he said to himself, I can no longer live with myself. And then, yeah, if you believe in grace, then through a sheer act of grace, another voice in him said, who is this self you cannot live with? And thus began his own awakening. We use these terms like awakening and enlightenment as though it's something you go and buy down at the local supermarket. Like it's a fixed thing. It isn't. In my own case, I experienced something completely different to Tolle. But again, a crisis point. And in my case, I was staring at what Gurdjieff would call the horror of the situation, or the terror of the situation. And I was staring it right in the face. And I didn't back off. For me it was a matter of either it destroys me or I destroy it. And in fact, what happened was I didn't really destroy it, I absorbed it. In fact, well, this would be another talk, but one of the ways to deal with your negative emotions is to eat them effectively by applying attention to them. Anyway, that's another story. But in my own case, the turning point for me was when I saw the horror of my own situation and didn't turn away from looking at it. And that's as near as I ever want to come to some kind of mental instability. I consider myself to be a fairly robust person, but that tested me right to the limit. And now, I'm quite a different person from what I used to be. So to get back to the main point, how much are you willing to pay for contentment, joy, happiness? Because, it's a crazy thing. Most people will happily work 30 years of their life to pay a mortgage. And the mortgage is nothing but a damn nuisance. Or they'll work for 5 years, say, to train to be a doctor. When you talk about the ultimate things, which are contentment and happiness, then actually no one really wants to pay anything. They want it dished out in a self-help book, or something they can get from listening to a few webinars or podcasts. And that is why so few people actually really achieve anything on the spiritual search. And Gurdjieff said it. Most people are better off just really enjoying their slumber and relying upon Lady Fortune to deliver acceptable circumstances. Of course, the problem is that Lady Fortune very often doesn't deliver favourable circumstances. And at that point, because we have nothing within us that is our own, we suffer, and we suffer a great deal. So, there is no There are no roast chickens flying around. It doesn't matter how wide you open your mouth. You are not going to get a roast chicken flying into your mouth. Whatever you get from spiritual work depends on the sincerity and intensity of your work. Gurdjieff talked about a container with a mixture of chemicals in it, and that the whole thing has to be heated up to a certain point to form something solid. Well, that heating up point, it would seem for many people, almost breaks the container. That's how hot it has to get. Anyway, it's 7:40 here where I live. Still more or less dark, and I want a coffee. So until the next video.